What if leadership wasn't about playing politics, but delivering real results? What if success wasn't built on deception, but clarity, vision, and values? Too often, people rise to the top, not because they are the best, but because they manipulate the system. But real success, the kind that lasts, is built by those who listen, solve real problems, and create lasting value for people and society. I'm Dr. Natalie Luke, your host. UnCeiling You is for the problem solvers, the visionaries, and the change makers. The ones who are building or want to make a difference for solutions that matter. If you're ready to rise, lead, and break through barriers, let's get started. Introducing Pamela Delbridge. Pamela's career spans from launching a startup to becoming a leader in a global organization. Her experiences managing transitions, building compliance programs, and fostering team collaboration offer valuable lessons for anyone navigating career growth. What you will learn in this episode includes understanding the differences between small and large organizations and how to thrive in both. Strategies for leading through change and supporting team development. The importance of clear goals and adaptability in building long-term success. Pam's career journey provides wisdom. Let's get started by hearing Pam's inspiring story of resilience and leadership through every stage of her career.
Hey, Pam, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so happy to have you. Your career experience is really fascinating to me. You've worked in both small companies and large companies, starting from a small company, and they all have their unique environment. Like, for example, a small company, if you've got to be on a go, 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 that causes a culture to be a certain way. And when you go to a large company, you're large. And so you have to really make sure you're buttoned up and all of those things. All of those things are just different. And so where I really wanted to start is not very many people can work in a small company and a large company, but you have. You've done it and you've been successful. Walk us through how you started your career at the very beginning and how you ended up moving from a small company to a large company.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me, Natalie. It's really good to be here. I love the message that you give the whole world, and I'm happy to be a part of delivering that positive message. So I started with the small company that I worked for in a capacity that we were actually a very small company, but in the beginning, we helped people build labs. So what we would do is we had a team of people. I did the HR and the quality. I wrote the procedures and the policies. And then we had somebody who was in charge of the validations and the science and setting up the instrumentation and procuring the instrumentation. We had a medical director so we had a science guy, a medical director, myself, and then an ops guy. And so we would go all around the country opening labs for other people. And we finally stopped for a second when two of the labs in a similar situation, very close by each other, asked us to stay for a while and manage our operations. So we actually stayed and managed those two small companies that grew and eventually sold. So we were there for about 2 years. And the great part about that is that you learn different operations at different times. And you learn a lot about how to deal with different management styles. You learn that as a contractor, things can be a little bit different, but all that said and done, and it's hard because you have bosses, but then you have bosses, your guests in people's home, you're responsible to them, and you're responsible to the people that you work for. So that was an interesting dynamic, but I was glad for the opportunity to learn because one of the labs we built, even though it was a small lab feel, was for a very, very large company, and that was pretty exciting. And then the people who I worked for thought, wow, we're really good at this. And we were. So let's do it for ourselves. So we started this laboratory with about 3 people.
Wow.
Most of the team, one of the team members stayed on as a contractor, and the other 2 of us started building a laboratory. And that was very, let's say, hair-raising because the people that I worked for were the investors. There was no outside investment. So when you start something, you have to then wait for the product to come in through the door. But first you have to set everything up. You have to get licensed, which was part of my job, getting us licensed and keeping us licensed. So our noses were pressed against that window for about 2 weeks before we ever saw our first sample, yet we were paying for employee, reagent, instrumentation. So it was a very difficult beginning, but very fun, and I learned a lot. So the great thing about working in a small company is that we're nimble and we can move quickly. We can pivot if we need to. The challenging thing about working for a small company is you wear a lot of hats. And I would like to say, well, as a woman, as a man, I'm only a woman. I've only ever been a woman. So I can only tell you my experience as a person. And that is, the more hats you wear, the more proficient you are. I'm one of those baby boomers that, his work ethic is come in at 6 and leave at, 7. And so I'm just hungry for knowledge. I just wanted to learn everything, because I felt like I would be much more valuable to the company the more I learned. And in a sense, that is very true, because we could not have grown if we didn't have that mentality throughout the 3, 5, 7, 12, as we grew. Mm-hmm. So we all wore a lot of hats. We got in each other's way. Our first location, we had one parking spot. So we had to race to see who was the first one there. No. The boss always the parking spot. We had to find somewhere way out on the street. But, I enjoyed the walk in the morning. There were beautiful jacaranda trees, purple jacaranda trees. If you've never seen one, when they start to shed, it looks like purple snow. But anyway, and myself and the ops manager shared an office. And we both have loud voices, and we both are very passionate about our jobs. So that was one of the biggest challenges we had. And the other challenge, I think, is generational. The baby boomer, get here at 6 a.m. and leave at 7 p.m, do everything we can to get the job done. And hiring new people straight out of college mentality is more, what is it called? Work-life balance. And, but I can't say one is better than the other. I can just say that it was a learning curve for all of us. Mm-hmm. But we strived and we became very successful. And
so looking back, I could see the challenges. If you were you who you are today, and you were talking to your younger self, what kind of advice do you think your younger self would have wanted from your older self?
Well, it's funny, Natalie, because now that I'm talking about it, I'm back in that space where it was just exciting every day. It was really fun. We had control over our destiny, and that is a really exciting place to be. Every day we were growing. Every day we were growing. Every day we were growing. And so that is fun to create, to grow, to learn. The challenge becomes when you're in a small company, you top off and you start to legitimize as a larger company, and you get now strangers in the mix that didn't pour their heart and soul into it, making decisions maybe around you or above you. And that is also a challenge. That is something that you have to deal with as a small company that wants to be a giant company, that wants to be a player. So you are at the mercy of the people who own the company and their decision making. So once that happens and it starts to layer up and stratify, they ask you to choose where you want to be. If you're lucky, they might just put you where they want you. But hopefully in every small company, they will see your strengths and move you to where your strong points are. And I think that's how we emerged. And I think that's how we were successful. We respected each other's strengths. We supported each other through the growth period. And I'm not going to say it wasn't very, very difficult at times. It was, but we were successful. So of course, when the end justifies the means, I guess, you look back and you say that was fun. Now, if we tanked, we would have said it a little differently. However, small company, big risks. We did take a risk. We opened up another company with, it was still a laboratory, but it had a different sort of testing. And so that was also very exciting because it was something new I was learning when I started to get really good at the other stuff. And we morphed into that space and it was fun, but that was so challenging and so different than what we were doing. I think what we learned is we should stay in the lane that we're good at. And so that was a short project, and not short like years. We were in it for years, but I think we learned that we should stick to what we're best at. And that was a good lesson for me, as I was growing up and developing myself. But you said, would I give myself advice? My advice would be, I'd like to say, find some boundaries, set some boundaries, because it's difficult when you are spreading yourself really thin. And the good example of that was we were an established lab. We were moving along. At this point, I was allowed to really grow in compliance because my chosen from HR, I did HR for 10 years or so, but I moved into compliance only. Okay. I went to a well-known university, and that was exciting to really hone my craft at that point. So as you grow up and as you start to diversify or stratify, right, you get to really get good at one thing. And that was really exciting for me to go to school, to be really their point person on compliance, very important in the medical field, highly regulated. And people mostly want to do the right thing. But, we learned that it's easy to stumble. Everybody, I think most people want to do what's right, but the bad players make it hard for us. And so there's all these rules and regulations that are sort of convoluted. So it was really important that I went to school and understood and had some confidence in. Sometimes I'd say things and I think that doesn't even sound right, but it is right. That there really is a law for that. So it was good to go to school and learn and grow. But then out of left field, we had a pandemic, and that was an incredible time. You were part of that with me, Natalie. It was frightening, but exhilarating. We were scrambling. We had to save lives. We had to think of ways to get this test everywhere. We're hiring 400% more because all of a sudden there's this opportunity to help people, understand what's going on and how they can help themselves. So we got into the COVID testing world. So all of what we knew was on hold because nobody was going to the doctor, and we had to learn on our feet and fast. And you should see a team come together. We had the executive team out bursting open for hours, bursting open FedEx bags and time stamping accessions. It was amazing how our team came together, despite some, differences in opinion. As you grow as a company, you're going to have those, but everybody came together in this beautiful way in this crazy time. We worked around the clock because we were so interested in helping solve this world crisis.
Yeah.
It was so amazing to be part of that with you, Natalie.
Yeah.
So it was a crazy time, but it was a very learning time. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you are open to learning, if you are open to growing, you don't know what it will lead you to. I think the best takeaway I have, and I don't know if advice for people, is like, no matter what opportunity you're given, if you feel drawn to it, if you are good at it, even if you don't know it, do it. Because even though it doesn't seem like something that goes with what you're doing at the moment, it's all part of your learning to get to that place, that opportunity that will come. And all of a sudden you can speak about this and you can speak about that, and you're really impressive because of this. And when you go for that interview for that job you really want, here you are, a person with all this experience, and all you were doing was living in the moment,
Yeah, I love it. Sometimes women are a little bit afraid of doing something because maybe they don't have all the answers. They haven't done it before. And so the information that you just provided is to say, hey, if you don't know it, if you've never done it, you've got to just do it. It's an experience trap if you think you have to do it before you can do it.
Exactly.
Is there any other advice that you would give to someone who might be afraid to try something new?
Hey everyone, Natalie Luke here. Excellence isn't about playing the game. It's about solving real problems, creating real value, and making a real impact. At UnCeiling You, we're having bold conversations with those who are rising, not through shortcuts, but through integrity, vision, and action. If this message resonates with you, I need your help. Download the latest episode and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to support this mission, you can leave a donation. It's quick, easy, and every bit helps us keep bringing these conversations to you. Your support makes a difference. Just scroll to the show notes, click the link, and leave a tip to help us keep growing.
Yes. And that is, there's no one way to do something. They teach us in school how to do things, and we learn to read and write. And I think they're better at teaching people now how to be more expansive. But, I had no idea how I could apply these things I learned from COVID or from being an HR manager or to, sharing an office with the operations manager, just siphoning in the information or doing, 40 CLIA inspections and the information that I would glean and how it would, even though it's ancillary information to what I do now, it's so much easier for me to be a decision maker when I am well-rounded like that. So I think that, like I said, just be a sponge and think outside the box. We had one salesperson that loved to take the compliance officer out on sales calls, on business development calls, because he's meeting with vice presidents of big companies, of the huge groups, large practices. And he's like, this is how important compliance is to us. I brought my compliance officer to answer any of your reservations. Go. And so all of a sudden we were thinking outside the box, and these VPs were like, wow, no one's ever done that before. And that is a great idea because I have all these questions. So it wasn't like playing telephone. The sales director had to call me. I gave him the answer and so on and so forth. Put me right in touch with these people. These people were impressed that we would be so compliant, because if you want to be a company that's going to stay for a long time, you have to be compliant, right? Yeah. And so these large groups were very interested in lining up with a compliant company. And so if that sales director brings a compliance officer, they know you're serious. So that was thinking outside the box and be open to those.
So just going back to something that you were talking about, I always see organizations as, and other people have done this, there's a whole hypothesis about how an organization is similar to a living organism. You're born and you're a baby. You then become an adolescent. And when you're young and a baby, you're like moving. And when you're an adolescent, you start to get yourself organized. Mm-hmm. And you start to develop your processes. When you become an adult, mm-hmm. your processes are more refined and better off. Mm-hmm. And then when you start to die, maybe your processes are a little too much, like you need to move a little. Mm-hmm. But in between, as you are a baby, becoming an adolescent, becoming an adult, there's some transition. It's a little bit rocky there. Those transitions don't happen. They happen and they're in a short period of time. And you've been through some of these transitions.
Tough ones. Really tough.
Yeah. So how do you mentor yourself during those transitions?
Well, I can't say I was always great at it, Natalie. You walked through some of those places with me, some dark times. And I think one of those is change. People are very afraid of change. And I can't say that I wasn't one of them, because it felt more like disrespect to me. It felt more like I was being left behind. So in retrospect, I can see the mistakes I made. I think if I could give myself about this topic advice, I would say, again, be open to the new adventure. You are your best advocate. Continue to do a great job, continue to find ways I can be valuable all day long, but there's not one CEO that I've ever met that will give me credit for anything or see me as successful unless they actually see with their own two eyes that I'm doing it, right? Or hear it in a room full of people. And I do give this advice now to people, and that is you have to be your own advocate. And I don't mean go in there and like, hey, I did this and I did this and I did this, but speak up at meetings, in a meeting, be prepared, be fully prepared, execute whatever you are called to do well, use your voice, use those times, very, very wisely, and make them big events for people to know who you are. You don't want them to think that you're, they didn't, they hired this whole level above me and I built this company. You can't feel entitled because it's not your company. You don't make decisions. So what you do is you stay relevant. And so it's tough. It's a tough game to play. And I don't like to call it a game because I think it is really the game of life in anything you do. I see my mom, who's 88, just living life and trying to stay relevant. But when you're working for a mature company that is starting to silo and you're getting farther and farther away from those decision makers or those owners, they have a lot more on their mind because, there's a lot more to deal with when your company is so large. you want to be chosen to be up there in the corner office. So I think you have to think in terms of, how can I make the people above me, how can I make their life easier? And how can I help them see that it is me that's making their life easier? So just always be excellent.
And I will say that you are excellent, and everybody loves you.
Thank you.
So talk to me about the transition going from the small to the large company. What are some of the things that you had to do to prepare yourself for that?
Well, I don't think you can ever prepare for that sort of transition. I got to be honest with you, though, because when I started really small with the last company, and then we grew. So when I come to a very mature company, because the company that I'm working for now has been around for more than 75 years, but they were acquired by a very, very large company well before I came, decades ago. So there is a very big, what do you call it, hierarchy. And our parent company isn't even in the country. So it is different to be on top of a, let's say, division. And that's kind of nice because the division almost feels like the small family feel, but we also have a mothership. So almost like being, like I said before, when we were working as contractors, you were guests in somebody's home. It's almost like that. And we're not really guests in home. We are employees of a very large company. And when I came here, it was interesting because a lot of people have been working here for 40 years, 35 years, 28, which is very impressive. And I think part of the reason why I came here, because if people stay, that means they've been given opportunity. They like the culture. People stay when they're happy, and happy people make great employees, and great employees are able to run a really good company. They're able to work together. So I think this company especially has done a good job of not siloing off. And that's the division I work in. However, it's very difficult to not feel siloed off from the rest of the company. I'm fortunate because I have a dotted line to the chief compliance officer at the large company, and she is masterful at making a team. We are a team. Any decision she makes, she makes us all aware of, but not only aware of, she sends it down the line, any new policy, and we all get to read it. We get to make pitch changes or things we think might make it better. And then we're given the policy, and then we operationalize that policy here in our space. So we are given autonomy, but support. And I think that is really a key to being a successful large company, letting people feel like they have the tools to do their job, but support if they need it. And so I feel both. I feel autonomy and support.
Great. So you and I, we got to deliver a presentation to, and also experience, I would say, to several different employees where we were talking about the power of vision. And really, I want to rephrase that and call it imagination. And during that experience, we talked about how the right brain and the left brain work differently and how you can bring the two together. And then you did a powerful experience where you had people meditate to really think about what is their dream? What would they really love to do? I wonder if you could say a little bit about that experience and what we learned when we did that.
It is truly my pleasure to help people to grow from the inside out, intrinsic growth, intrinsic confidence. And so I think as people, we become part of a machine and we start letting that machine or life, let's say, make decisions for us. So we just go where life takes us. So what we did, Natalie, is we stopped and had people think, what is it that you want though? Is this it? Who do you want to be? What do you want? What would make you happy? Does anyone really? We're so busy in this day and age, especially with so many images coming at us with social media. I was just thinking the other day when I was on my phone, like somebody called and I remembered to call them back because I saw it in my phone. But when I was a kid, we'd have to stop, we'd have to write it, we'd have to find a piece of paper and a pen, we'd have to write it down, we'd have to stick it somewhere like our pocket or our purse or pin it on a wall so we'd remember to call the person back later. Like things are so convenient now. And so do we ever just stop? And so it's such a good idea to stop and think, add that breath like we did and let it ruminate, have some quiet time, quiet with a targeted thought. See that the key there is, and I love, I'm a firm believer in root cause analysis and SMART goals. And all this really is getting to that root, finding what it is that makes me happy. I think it's really healthy to explore what it is that makes you happy or how you feel, and then move toward that experience. And you can't do that unless you make that goal, but you can't make that goal unless you think about it and define it in your own mind.
Yeah.
But that's not easy.
No. And that was such a great time. I remember one person in the room said that what they really would love to do is go to Mars. I was thinking to myself, did you say Mars? And she's like, yes.
And in her lifetime, that is very possible, right?
Yeah.
And if someone didn't dream that one day, like, it may not happen.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So kudos, big dreams. I'm for them.
Well, I really have to thank you for coming on and sharing your path and your experience and your wisdom. This has been fabulous.
Thank you, Dr. Luke. You have been an inspiration to me, so I would do anything you asked. But I think, and I got to be honest, one of the things I didn't mention, good advice is pick people who lift you up. Pick people who you can vent to and it won't go anywhere. Because sometimes you just got to get it out. You don't want to have someone cure it, but sometimes you just got to get your thoughts together out loud. So pick someone you truly trust, someone who's going to lift you up, someone who cares about your success and will support it. And not everyone's going to do that. And so you are one of those people. And I thank you for your support in my life and your belief in me and giving me those little cards, because I love my cards and I look at them every day.
Yeah, that's the Gabby Bernstein cards.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Wow, what an incredible conversation today. Pamela shared so much wisdom, from navigating the unique challenges of small companies to thriving in larger organizations. We explored the importance of adaptability, embracing growth, and taking bold steps, even when we don't have all the answers. One of my biggest takeaways from this discussion is the power of staying open to new experiences, to learning, and to the opportunities that might not seem obvious at first, but can shape the trajectory of our careers and lives. And if you've been here the whole way, listening, reflecting, and growing alongside us, thank you. Your commitment to self-growth is what will set you apart. You are investing in yourself, in your ambition, and in the possibilities that are waiting for you. And that is no small thing. So, as you step away from this episode, I encourage you to take a moment to ask yourself, what is one bold move I can make this week? Maybe it's raising your hand for a new challenge at work, reaching out to someone for guidance, or simply giving yourself the permission to imagine bigger, because you can do it. And I'll be right here, cheering you on every step of the way. Until next time, keep growing, keep dreaming, and keep unsealing yourself, and watch the ripple effect unfold. Okay, be honest. Have you ever had that gut feeling that you're meant for more? Like, you're doing the work, you're showing up, but you know there's another level waiting for you. And let's be real, it's not about being stuck. You're growing, you're learning, but maybe you're looking around thinking, all right, what's next? How do I make sure my career is moving in the right direction, on my terms? Here's the thing. Career growth isn't about just grinding harder. It's about positioning yourself, surrounding yourself with the right people, and taking bold action. The most successful professionals, they don't just wait for things to happen. They step up, get in the right rooms, and create opportunities for themselves. And that's exactly what we're doing inside the Unsealing Zone. I'm inviting a small group of ambitious women who are ready to level up, build confidence, and grow their careers without waiting for permission. If that's you, if you're ready to make bold moves this year, drop a note in the comments or DM me and write ready, and let's chat. No pressure, just a real conversation about what's next for you. Let's make this your year of unapologetic career growth. Let's go.